Hi, I'm Nichelle, and welcome back to Don't Forget the Champagne. Today we're going to be doing something really exciting. I had this idea a few weeks ago, and I'm excited to finally get started on it, but it is something I decided to call Wedding Impossible. It is going to be where I plan a pretend wedding based on things that I'm going to pull out of these here envelopes. So we have a bunch of different categories that we will go through, and I will pull one or two things depending on what category it is, and then I'll have to put together a wedding based on those things. Does that make sense? Sort of, maybe, kind of, vaguely? Okay, let's just go ahead and get into it. We'll start with just pulling, and then I'll take you behind the scenes on the wedding planning process, and then you'll get to see what it'll all look like pulled together. So this envelope is budget, so I will pull one out of here. I tried to put, I think there's like 10 different budget points in here. I tried to put mostly lower budget because I feel like those weddings are a little bit harder to plan. There's something we don't see as often depicted. We've seen these really beautiful, expensive weddings, and don't get me wrong, I love those. But I wanted to include something that was a little bit more typical as far as wedding price points. So there's lots of stuff under like $20,000. All right, we got a nice low one. So today's budget is $3,000, which is not very much for a wedding. So we've got a $3,000 budget. This envelope has wedding colors in it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull two out of here. So we'll have two different wedding colors that I will have to work with. So let's see what we've got. There are all sorts of colors in here. We've got navy. I love navies. That's a good one. And it's like a neutral. So we're just going to get like orange and green. That'll be a lot. Sparkle. Is glitter a color? Debatable. But it will be for our purposes. This next one has, they're not really priorities, they're like must-haves. So they have a bunch of different must-haves. Some of them are like really crazy and some of them are pretty standard. So this is the couple's must-have item on their wedding day. Let's see. Now, it must be now. This is great. So right now, if you are not living in May of 2020 with us, it is Corona time. So that really limits what people can do, because you can't have big groups of people all together right now because of Corona, if you haven't heard. So that will pose some unique challenges. Okay, this envelope has wedding themes in it. So these aren't themes mostly. These mostly are themes like classic, boho, more kind of stylistic themes. But I did throw in a couple more like specific themes. So we'll see what we get. I think we'll probably pull two unless I get one that's like crazy. Then maybe I'll only pull one. I don't know, I'm coming with a roll. Casual, okay. So we're gonna have a sparkly casual wedding. Great, ideal. I'm gonna go ahead and pull one more since that was a little bit big. Whimsical. Ooh, I love that. Whimsical. That goes well with sparkle. This envelope has our guest count, which will be interesting because, like I said, we are having a Corona wedding. So if they want a lot of guests, I'm going to have to get real creative. 50 people. Okay, so 50 people. So a smaller wedding, but according to Colorado, right now we can only have gatherings of 10 people or less. So 50 would be more than that. So we'll have to get a little creative with what we're doing. And the last one is priorities. So I talk a lot about priorities. I think I have a priorities video. I'll go ahead and link it. But priorities are super important to establish when you are figuring out your initial wedding planning stuff, so you can make sure that you allocate enough money towards that item. So this has priorities in it. I'm going to go ahead and pull one as the top priority for my couple. Decor. Okay, so decor is a big priority for them. Great. All right, so that is my wedding. Let's kind of go through what we've got on all of our little slips. So it's going to be right now during Corona times. How exciting. It's going to be a $3,000 wedding, so pretty low budget. We're going to have to figure out how to make that work, but we definitely can. You can make a wedding work on any budget. I firmly believe it. You need enough money to pay for the marriage license, which in Colorado is like $30, so we've got it covered. We're going to have navy blue and sparkles. And decor is their top priority, and they want something that is both whimsical and casual. So that is our starting point. I'm excited to get working on this wedding and share what I put together with you. All right, let's get to it. I'm excited to get into what I wound up creating for this wedding. So the first thing is, let's look at the inspiration board. With our inspiration board, I wanted to pull in a lot of the elements they talked about. So I wanted to pull in lots of navy, lots of glitter. I decided to go with a gold glitter. You have kind of a lot of options when it comes to sparkle and glitter. And I really liked the look of the navy and gold. We can kind of see it down here with the navy and gold balloon. And then you'll notice we have a couple images of a drive-in. So this is my creative solution to kind of dealing with coronavirus, because obviously with coronavirus we can't have gatherings in the typical way. We really want to make sure we maintain those 6 feet distances. So and my initial thought was to do it in cars, drive-in movie style. Turns out trying to figure out the sound logistics of making sure everyone can hear what's going on in their car requires a ton of infrastructure, from pretty loud speakers to a pretty tall stage. And also we wanted to make sure that this was something that could be done easily within a neighborhood or something, and a lot of noise ordinances will prevent the speaker system that we would have needed to do something at quite this scale. So instead, if you look in the bottom left corner down here, you can kind of see this picnic blanket situation. So instead of in cars, we're going to do a drive-in kind of loose theme, but we're going to do it picnic style. So everyone will have a blanket, or actually I think we're going to go with beach towels to sit on, that will be spaced 6 feet apart so you can maintain those social distances. And still allow everyone to see and hear what is going on. And then as kind of the reception, the party part of the wedding, since dancing is a no-go, we're gonna do a movie. So like I said, we're gonna really embrace that drive-in movie theme, be it like slightly vintage inspired, not truly vintage inspired, but just little whimsical elements. See, got the whimsical in there. And I think the picnic blanket also brings them that casual vibe they wanted. So even though we're going with navy and sparkle, which could maybe lend itself to a more formal wedding, also it's gonna be an evening wedding, which again lends itself more formally, I think the way we're setting everything up will allow it to be really fun and casual, and kind of the best of what we can make in this situation. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what I'm thinking for this wedding. I am using these sheets that are from Something Fun Coming This Summer, so this is a little sneak peek. What I'm thinking, I'm actually going to skip this and we'll come back to it because I'm going to talk about this first. For the seating, doing like picnic blankets or towels for each person, and then there'll be a 6-foot gap between them per CDC recommendations. And then each space just having like a towel, encouraging guests to bring blankets and things. And then to kind of spruce things up, doing balloon table numbers, except they won't be tables, they'll be balloons on picnic blankets, and also including their favor box, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well, on this little nugget, so everyone gets to be socially distanced and stay on their area. If you look at the floor plan, the aisles are kind of all over the place, spread out, so we have that 6 feet distance between everyone. And I think I would actually have the bride and groom enter this way. But I do want to talk about all these little dots on the floor plan. These are going to be more just plain LED balloons. And so lighting, we kind of have the LED balloons that will keep the area generally lit, I think lit enough to allow for movement around. But I also want to make sure that we do some like stage lighting. We want to make sure that we can see them when they're getting married, because that will be happening at dusk time. And then for the altar space, I want to do a DIY backdrop. These are actually pretty easy. The one I'm thinking of is doing a plywood frame, and then you do fabric on top of it. So normally it's a drop cloth, because that's one of the few fabrics you can get that is big enough, and then you can dye it. They are normally cotton, so they're pretty easy to dye. And they want navy color, which is a color that typically, it's a darker color, so you have to leave it for a while. But blues, I feel like, tend to turn out well with dyes, at least in my experience. and then covering that with fabric. And then I think to add a little pizzazz, doing like a balloon garland, probably mixing in some greenery, making that look really luxe. And then doing some big letters. I'm thinking at least 2 feet. So this whole thing will be, and I want these to be at least 2 feet, but maybe more. So I'm thinking the best way to do that will probably be to create foam core letters, and I want those to be done in glitter. So we get that glitter element. So we get the navy and the glitter and more balloons. There's a lot of balloons in here. Balloons are great because they're pretty low cost for high impact. So now that we've kind of talked about what the general place will look like, I do want to do 2 welcome tables. And I want to have one table that's going to have our like seating chart, and the other one I want to have like bug spray, hand sanitizer, sunscreen, that sort of stuff. So 2 tables as they come in. And again, you can kind of see those in the floor plan. These guys right here would be those. And also with that table with the seating chart, I think also having instructions on like what the heck is happening, since this is a very non-traditional wedding. So that's what we want. As far as stylistically, I think keeping things pretty simple. The favor display. This I am really excited about. I think it's a fun idea. We're not doing a like favor display. Each seat will have a favor in its own each spot, but I want to do like a popcorn bucket. And you can get these pretty cheap online. When I was looking at, you can, since I'm ordering like 50 of them, you can order them in bulk for like $1 each. And then doing a sticker on the front, like a big sticker that's like the customized part, but not worrying about getting a custom popcorn bin. We're not serving a meal, also because the budget just doesn't quite allow for it. So there's not going to be food served, also because the logistics of Corona food serving is really difficult. So they're provided some snacks. It's going to start later. Like I said, like probably like an 8 p.m. start time. And it will be made very clear that there's not going to be dinner served. Okay. Seating chart display. My initial inspiration is the drive-in movie theater. So I'm going to take that and create like a parking lot type vibe that will obviously match the floor plan with these numbered. And then in each spot, just have like a little toy car that's glittered. That has like the list of people on each table. But I think it'll be really cute, kind of bring in that like vintage drive-in movie theme that we're lightly doing throughout. Okay, and then again, we don't have a bar area because we are not doing alcohol, because it is an outdoor wedding. And again, the logistics of serving people right now is crazy. So we're not doing that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about where this $3,000 budget went. So $3,000 is definitely on the smaller size, especially for a 50-person wedding. But it actually worked out pretty well, since they were skipping some of the more traditional and expensive aspects of planning a wedding. So we start out with ceremony, and in that I included mostly the ceremony backdrop equipment. That whole setup, which is mostly DIY, so that came to a total of about $200. For reception, I included everything that went into those different spots throughout the grass, except the favors. It's in a different category. So any of the balloons that we're using as decor throughout the event and as table numbers, all of the beach towels, all of the balloon stakes, all of that stuff went into reception. So it's one of our larger categories, and it's about $470. And then the venue is free, so I am assuming that they have access to a venue that has electricity, so we don't need to rent a generator, and that it doesn't have super strict noise ordinances, so that we can play a movie after dark without too many issues. When you're planning a wedding on a lower budget, you do kind of have to tap into your resources, and since these Eddie and Bella are not real people, this is what I've assumed that they have access to. It typically wouldn't be too hard, I wouldn't imagine. If someone has a pretty large backyard, you would be able to do it. A lot of times public parks, I know in my area, are free, if not super affordable to rent, and you often have access to electricity in them as well. So we went ahead and did free with that. And then rentals is $500, so that includes all their AV equipment for both the movie and for the ceremony, so sound for that, and their lighting, because they are going to be having a wedding kind of in the twilight dusk time, so we want to make sure that they're well lit so you can see them getting married. And then we don't have a catering and bar because Well, it was kind of on the more expensive side. It wasn't a priority for them, and trying to do catering and drinks during Corona is incredibly difficult because you have to deal with all of the restrictions as far as sanitariness and 6 feet distancing, and it's just really difficult. So we were able to avoid that, and it worked out well for everyone. And then I have a really small floral budget just so the bride can have a bouquet. I don't imagine her having a bridal party, so just enough for her to have a bouquet. Make it herself from grocery store flowers. $30 should be more than enough. Stationery is free, so instead of doing traditional invitations, they're going to do email invitations, which is perfect because they do have a pretty short timeline. We're getting married like in a week and a half. So with such a small guest list, it's pretty simple to find an email invitation website that'll do that for free. And if they did want to upgrade, again, pretty inexpensive. Gifts and favors are $250. And typically I wouldn't recommend spending almost 10% of a wedding budget on favors, but for them it also kind of serves as almost their catering, because their favors are going to include the only food that their guests are getting from them. Attires and rings, $900. So essentially what I did was, once all the kind of bare essentials were covered, I put the rest in here for attire and rings. That should be plenty to get both the bride something, the groom something, allow them to both buy wedding bands. The bride will be doing her own hair and makeup, so no cost there. Same thing with cake as catering and bar. It is just too difficult logistically to try to figure that out. It wasn't a priority for them, so we went ahead and cut it for the sake of simplicity and for budget. Photography. So $300 is like really cheap for a photographer, but what I'm imagining will actually happen is this couple will get a photographer for probably about an hour, which $300 should be more than enough to cover that. And just so they can get some shots of their ceremony and some shots of their guests. So it's definitely not a full wedding package, but at least they do get some photos. And then we're skipping music, we're skipping rehearsal dinner, we're skipping hotels, keeping things simple. And then I put aside $300, which is about 10% of their budget, for an emergency fund, especially since they're having an outdoor wedding. You want to have a little extra money set aside in case something goes wrong or weather is strange and they're having to buy, extra stakes for the movie screen because of the wind, or they have to change the date because of the rain, and there are some costs associated with that. I think outdoor weddings are high risk, and DIY, which they're doing a lot of both. So I wanted to make sure they had $300 set aside to cope with anything that should come up. And then the last category is miscellaneous, and this includes their marriage license, which in Colorado is $30. And also some money to get bug spray for people if they want to do that, since they are having like an outdoor wedding in evening time, sitting on the ground. So bug spray is definitely, I think, for me, mosquitoes love me, so I think it's a necessity. Okay, that is everything I have for this first Wedding Impossible. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I know I did. I think it turned out really fun and different and unique, and I think when you give yourself challenges like this, such as this, you're able to think outside the box and not just create a different iteration of a Pinterest wedding. So if you want more of these videos or any wedding planning videos at all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. All right, bye.